It's now time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. It's the only daily boxing talk show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening. Whenever you're listening, whenever you're watching, I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located on St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's for an authentic Italian meal. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by the Holiday Inn and all their properties. Hey, listen, if you got to travel somewhere and you need to spend the night in a hotel or a motel, make sure you stay at a Holiday Inn property. My favorites, Holiday Inn Resorts, and of course the Holiday Inn Express. But I'll give you a better reason why you should stay at a Holiday Inn. I'll get you a discount. That's right. Call our toll-free number for a Billy C discount, 844-603-0364. And by the way, that number, you can make your reservation right from that number, 844-603-0364, or just click the banner that's up on BillyCBoxing.com. And today's show is also being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Men on a Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. You can get a copy of my book right now while you're watching or listening to this show. Just visit BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. Find out why I'm so adamant about getting Tom Molyneux's story told. And by the way, if you're looking to get a signed copy, just visit the website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the book, and then follow the directions. I want to give a special shout-out to two of our radio affiliates that we have personal connections to. First, out of Brunswick, Georgia, WGIG. We're glad to be part of that programming, sports programming. I believe you guys listen to us on the weekend, over the weekend. So I want to thank Scott and the rest of the crew for helping us out. And, of course, WSMN in Nashua, my man George and the crew. We love being part of your Friday night sports programming. So a couple of friends of ours that carry the show we'd like to give a shout-out to. But anyway, coming up a little bit later on this show, we will have my man Dax Khan join us, and also Alex Batali. But first, Manny Pacquiao fights this weekend. Unfortunately, the powers that be, due to greed, are sticking him on ESPN Plus. But I can't help but wonder if this is like Custer's last stand. Is this Manny Pacquiao's last stand? It was George Custer, right? I don't know. But Sal's going to correct me in a minute. Joining me right now, was it George Custer? What took that last stand?
I think it was General George. He had a middle initial. George. George. It was George.
George.
But
hey, George.
George.
Remember the cartoons? Hey, George. Hey, George.
I wish my brother.
Yeah,
George
I wish my
here.
brother George was. But is it Manny Pacquiao's last stand in your opinion? I mean, he's 39 years old. He really doesn't have anything left to prove. Does he have to win? And should he win, or even should he lose? Is this his last opportunity to continue, or will this be the last time we see him in the ring? I mean, what's your thoughts?
I still don't know why we are seeing him in the ring. Like I've often said, his sole purpose for getting the surgery and coming back was to fight Floyd Mayweather. And I thought that was the only fight he was going to push to have come to fruition for himself. It didn't happen. I don't believe it's going to happen. And I think that, one of my earlier concerns were that he's going to be just used as fodder for young up-and-coming bucks coming on. And Manny Pacquiao has had too great of a career, a Hall of Fame career, to just become an opponent. I don't think it's going to be that grave, but like I said, he's a combatant, he's a fighter, he's a competitor, and if he's doing these fights because he feels in his heart of hearts this is what he really wants to do, I mean, he's already proven he's a multi-level world champion. That's in a record book. I don't know if we'll ever see an 8-time divisional world champion again in our lifetime. And he's getting old. And I think he's fighting above his best weight. He's not a big guy, and he's a welterweight. And I think that he's got a lot of questions that he's got to ask himself. But if he's doing it because it's hard to put out the torch, it's hard to put out the fire. You do this for 20 years, 30 years. It's just the whole mindset, the mentality, the training camps, the regiment, the rituals, the competition, the level of it. And, once you retire, boom, the door's closed. It's done. And, you're like this revved up car that no longer has a race to run. And so you try to channel it. You try to find productive areas that you can seek other titles and other ways. I'm just using that as an analogy. But the bottom line is, it's hard to let go of that last fight and to look in the mirror and say, hey, this is it. This is going to be my last hurrah. And then I'm never going to see it again. So I think he has his own personal walk down the hall, if you will, and he's got his own reasons. I think he still believes that he is fighting on the top of his game or just over the top, and I think that reality and time is going to prove him differently. And I think that he probably will have this being, if he loses this fight, I think this will be his last fight. If he wins this fight, I think he'll look for one more big title fight.
I think you're right about, should he win, I think he's going to go and try to secure a rematch with Floyd. But, when you look at Manny Pacquiao, and, I have said that if I had to put an all-time great list together, and include both Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather, I would put Manny ahead of Floyd, and I'll tell you why. I mean, the first thing is, no disrespect to Floyd. I mean, he accomplished a lot of great things,
yes, he did,
including beating Manny Pacquiao. But when you take a look at these guys' careers from start to finish, Manny Pacquiao was in much more meaningful fights against other fighters that were relative to him and parallel to him during that time. And he stepped in the ring with these guys in their primes, whereas Floyd kind of navigated through the masses of fighters and pick and chose when he wanted to fight the fighters. Because when you look at Floyd's resume, the names on it are just as equally impressive, specifically in the last 10 years. But you have to keep in mind when those fights took place. In other words, look at this. The last 10 fights that Manny Pacquiao had took a span of 7 years. And let's be real. In the last 10 fights, his record was 6-4. But look at the fights. In 2011, in the going back from the earliest to the current, he beats Juan Manuel Marquez in a 12-round majority decision. Now, that's 7 years ago. Both guys equal in age and everything else. He followed that with back-to-back losses. Timothy Bradley, who is got to be one of the most underrated fighters in the sport, or was before he retired, loses a very controversial split decision to him, followed 6 months later by a devastating knockout loss to Juan Manuel Marquez. Everyone said that Manny was finished at that point. Then he fought Brandon Rios, who was a come-at-you guy, wins a 12-round decision, gets a rematch with Timothy Bradley, beats him, fights Chris Algieri, who was, a young motion fighter who busted onto the scene. Then he steps in the ring with Floyd and loses that, fight that I think the last person just woke up and left the arena. That was in 2015. In 2016, he fights Timothy Bradley again. People forget he fought Timothy Bradley 3 times.
I didn't even know that.
And, he beats Timothy Bradley. Then he wins the title from Jesse Vargas, wins a 12-round decision from him, and then loses his last fight against Jeff Horn. So, I mean, those were the fights for the last 10 years. But when you look prior to that, Shane Mosley, Antonio Margarita, Joshua Clottey, Miguel Cotto, Ricky Hatton, Oscar De La Hoya, David Diaz. Juan Manuel Marquez again, Marco Antonio Barrera, Jorge Solis, Eric Morales. He had fights with Eric Morales, 3 great fights with Eric Morales. It's just the names, and at the times when he fought them, they were all, at the same age or at the same spot in the division he was fighting in. Not to mention he was rising divisions like the tide rises on St. Simon's. But, the truth of the matter is I just think it's more impressive. Now, one thing that is pretty obvious to me is since he's been in politics, his seek and destroy mentality has changed. What's your thoughts over his last 10 fights, Sal, 7 years, and not that impressive with a 6-4 record?
No, it's not. But we look at the years before that, and that was impressive. I mean, there was a long run he had that he was unbeatable. And like I said, he's really chomped at the bit. Here's a combatant. Here's a fighter. Here's an athlete who's done nothing more in front of him than to just challenge himself to fight the very best and to give the fans what they want. He'll fight anybody, anywhere, at any time. And what else can you ask for a fighter? I mean, from a fighter. I mean, this guy is phenomenal, and that's why. That's why the size never mattered. That's why the platform never mattered. I mean, he was very easy to negotiate with. All he cared about was getting in the ring, hearing that bell ring, and go bombs away, and figure out a way to beat his opponent. So you have a spirit, the essence, the utter essence of a spirit of a fighter who would put it all on the line to win or lose, but to give it his all from bell to bell and never give up. And you know what? What else can you expect from a true warrior? And that's what Manny Pacquiao has always been, is a true warrior. And so you want to look at where he's going to fall in under the all-time great list. There's no wonder that the guy like this should be included in any kind of list like that. It's almost a difficult process to watch the twilight in the end to see how it's going to play out. Would I like to see him go out a winner? Absolutely. I would love to see him win this weekend. And hey, like you suggested, maybe there is one more of a fight left with Floyd. Do I think he'd get past Floyd? Not really. I don't think he'll ever beat Floyd. But the bottom line is I think he'll give his heart and his soul to try to win.
Never say never.
Like
I got an email recently about Manny Pacquiao in that Floyd Mayweather fight with the shoulder issue. Floyd clearly ducked Manny earlier, when they were both younger. He waited, and then he kind of lucked out with the shoulder. Would he – now Floyd is actually older than Manny. Would Floyd get in the ring with 100% healthy Manny? I don't know. But
be interesting, Billy. I never wanted to see that rematch, early on. But I could almost see, especially after Floyd's last escapade with a non-boxing entity in front of him, I think that, Manny Pacquiao could really, if he closes the show this weekend and wins big, and if he starts yelling out for Floyd saying, hey, I'm back, I want you, and I could see this going on record for helping Floyd pay his 2017 tax bill too.
That's the reason he would do it. But now Manny gets in the ring with Lucas Matthysse. Lucas Matthysse is no spring chicken either. 35 years old. But Lucas Matthysse is a tough fighter. He's got an impressive resume himself with 4 losses, and those coming at the hands of Victor Postol when he got knocked out in the 10th round. That was Postol's greatest fight. He also has a loss against Danny Garcia and Devon Alexander when it was a very close fight. Many people thought Matthysse won. And then, of course, Zab Judah way back in 2010. But Lucas Matthysse is the champ. Once again, the WBA, gives him the regular championship. And he fought for that in January of this year when he beat Tiwa Karam. Who? Exactly.
I was going to say, what?
But Karam was 38-0. And Lucas Matthysse knocked him out. So, this is not going to be an easy fight for Manny Pacquiao. But should he win, and should he win in convincing fashion, I'm talking about like a knockout, like a devastating knockout, because of the 4 losses, the only time Lucas Matthysse was stopped was against Victor Postol. In a fight that was very uncharacteristic of Lucas Matthysse. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with this fight on Saturday, or at least it'll be interesting who can see it because it will be on ESPN Plus. But I do think, to answer my own question, I do think, yeah, I agree with me. I do think it's his last shot. I think, meaning shot at something really big. Should Manny Pacquiao win this fight, I personally wouldn't want to see him go and start trying to be a fighter in the welterweight division, a la going after some of the younger fighters like Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence Jr. or even the MIA Keith Thurman or even the winner of Danny Garcia against Sean Porter. I just don't see those fights, although I'm sure people would want to watch them. I just don't see it being the right fight for Manny. And as much as I agree with me too, I don't want to see Floyd Mayweather ever in the ring again. I don't even want to see him on the TV, on the TV. I don't even want to see him on social media. But if Manny Pacquiao does look good on Saturday and does beat Matthysse in a convincing fashion, a la knocking him out, then maybe I think it would be worthwhile to see those two in the ring again, only because it would be as equal as Manny could find, because Floyd is 40 years old, Manny's 39. It could be billed as unfinished business, et cetera, et cetera. So it's more of an even fight between those two at this stage of their careers than it would be for Manny Pacquiao taking on a young world champion in the welterweight division, something Floyd never did, so why should Manny?
Well, you look at it that way, it's hard to debate that issue. And, like I said, I think this weekend is going to be definitely one that's going to decide whether it's a win or a loss. It's going to decide which direction Manny's going to continue on. And I think if he is losing this fight, I think it's going to be a nice, humble exit into the world of politics or training or doing whatever he might want to do. But if he should win, I think the only natural thing I think he could do is tout out Mayweather's name for a rematch. I don't know. I think that's the only last hurrah that fans would like to see that he should do, because, like you said, I can't really see him going up against the Keith Thurmans or the young bucks in the division. Keith's not even all that young compared to some of these other guys coming up. So I think that he definitely will be limited with his future opponents. Although he'd be willing, like I said, he's got that pit bull mentality. He'd be more than willing to step in the ring with anybody, anywhere, anytime. but I really think that in his own handlers or this and that, I think he's going to be very careful, very selective, and I think the only natural opponent would be Floyd Mayweather.
See, the thing is, and we got to take a break here, but the thing is that Manny, in my opinion, was never really as selective as Floyd was. And to be honest with you,
no,
he's got nothing left to prove. The key with this fight on Saturday night, in my opinion, for the future of Manny Pacquiao, is which version of Manny Pacquiao shows up. Is it the same version that was so exciting and such a vicious fighter who realistically we haven't seen in quite some time? You have to really you have the last time that he won by knockout was Miguel Cotto, when he battered Miguel Cotto. The Oscar De La Hoya battering, the Ricky Hatton battering. I mean, that was it after that. Then he kind of, he battered Antonio Margarito, but Margarito went the distance. Sugar Shane Mosley fights, 7 years ago. Listen, if Manny Pacquiao can muster up some meanness, I think he may continue. If not, if he gets the win, wins the title, walks away. We got to take a break. We'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money. It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
Need relief from backaches and stiffness in your hips or down your legs? Then you need Dr. Ho's Back Relief Belt. The innovative technology works to support and decompress your spine. And now it's covered by Medicare.
Every patient with back pain should be wearing this belt.
Nothing gave me instant relief except for the Dr. Ho belt.
Feel good while standing, walking, driving, doing housework, and while laying down. And now Dr. Ho's patented belt is available at our best price ever. It's even covered by Medicare. Order now to get the easy-to-use hand pump and back rehabilitation DVD free.
You know, similar belts can cost you almost $1,000, but my belts won't cost you $500, not $300, not even $200. I will give you my special TV price.
And remember, Dr. Ho's belt is covered by Medicare.
If you know a friend or family member that suffers with pain, get them my system today. Help them live with less pain, be more active, and get back to doing the things they love. Give them the gift of health.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace? Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now. or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And during the break, Sal, I can see Sal. Sal can't see me, but
I don't know when you're watching.
I don't know. I saw it all. I mean, you have much too much time on your hand with that. With your friend. It's like when who was it? What was that movie? Was it Tom Hanks who got stranded on the island and was talking to Wilson, the soccer ball? You know, that's you with the glove. At first, until I saw the face, I didn't know what you were thinking about that. Yeah, you got much too much time on your hand, my friend.
It's a glove. But I guess I've been living alone too long.
Show it again. I didn't have the camera on you.
No, I don't know. This is a glove. I just had an extra glove, and I thought I'd inflate it and make it look. Make it look like
Sal's a nutcase.
You're drinking a Billy C.
Hey, I would much rather see him do that than try to make another comeback. But anyway,
I gotta talk to you about that.
Yeah, no more talking. But anyway, I got a couple of emails I want to read. We are scheduled to get Dax and Alex to come on a little bit later. As a matter of fact, Dax should be coming on at the next break, so hopefully he remembers that part. But anyway, this first email is from my man Luke Thunder Breslin. He says, hey guys, I hope you're well. He says, so I've been away for a little while. He says, and I thought I'd come straight back and listen to yesterday's show, and I'm greeted by the bombshell. He says, I'm not going to lie. I've noticed, Billy, since I've been listening to your show since September of last year, I can tell that you were getting more and more disheartened with certain things that are going on in the boxing world. And I completely understand because they are my gripes with the sport as well, which is in a weird way one of the reasons that made me gravitate to your show more and more each day as I listened, knowing that we were on the same wavelength. Well, I want to be positive and just say, while I was away, Bill, I read your book in one day. I just wanted to take the time to say thank you. You must be extremely proud, and I'm so glad that I took the time to read it. It's such a fascinating story that I can't imagine how much time you spent trying to collect what little information there is about the late, great Tom Molyneux. 7 years. Just FYI, it took me 7 years. He says, one of my personal favorite traits about the book was how you laid it out. Short, punchy paragraphs allowed me to dip in and out to allow me to check timelines and look up research materials. So you're back. So my man Thunder was checking my stuff, huh? Good deal. I love it. He says, it's an incredible book about an incredible man. I genuinely couldn't put it down. You know, that's what a lot of people say, and it is true. And you know, it's funny. I'm just pausing here with this email. You know, originally, I'll let everybody in on a little secret. Originally, when I decided that I was going to write this book, it was not going to be written the way it was written. When I started stumbling upon not being able to get some of the information that I wish I could, like for example, the boat ride, the ship from New York to England. You know, what was that like? I mean, you know, I could only imagine. There was no documentation on it. The ship sank. You know, I did locate the ship, but anyway, you got to read the book. But the truth of the matter is that I was going to embellish and kind of assume what it was like based on other data I could obtain about, you know, those journeys back in that era. But then along the way, Colleen Aycock and Mark Scott wrote a book about uncrowned champions, and they had read my short story of my book, and they asked me if I would be willing to put that book, the short story version, an essay version of my book, in their book. And when I said yes, I had to take my book, which I was in a note process, and condense it to an essay, which ended up being 16 pages or something. And then when that was done and I was published and everything else, I said, you know what? I like the fact that I want to write the book just based on the facts that I was able to uncover. So I kind of used that essay as my layout and just expanded on what was in that essay with the rest of the story. And that's how it ended up being the way it is now. It's only 150 pages. It is a quick read. And I did lay it out just, factual. So, yeah, I appreciate the accolades from Luke. Anyway, Luke goes on to say, whatever the future brings, you got a supporter in myself. I will be brutally honest. I'm not, he says, I'm not in a position to contribute financially to the show, but rest assured, if I did, I'd be one of your biggest backers. I wasn't asking for that, but I appreciate that. He says, I really appreciate, I am asking for sponsors, but he says, I really appreciate the time and effort that all you guys put in to provide such a great show. I really hope your rest and rejuvenation is exactly what you need to get the show back to where you guys want it. Trust me when I say I'll be waiting eagerly for August and the return. Peace and love, guys. I appreciate the email, Luke. Means a lot, and I'm really glad that you enjoyed the book as much as you did. And I'm looking forward already to the post-fight show on August 4th, Sal.
I know you are, and me too. Not that we want to rush the summer, but you have definitely the canvas and the palette is right in front of you. So whatever you want to paint in the future, here we go, and we'll be ready at the helm to go on and make it happen.
Sal Stradamus with the canvas analogy. I like it. We got Dax coming on in a little bit, but I just wanted to get one more email out of the way. This one's from my man Johnston. Actually, you know what? This one I think we're going to include Dax with, and I'll tell you why. He's got some really cool stuff capping off what we've seen already this year. And other fights that are scheduled. The funny thing, and the bittersweet situation here, Sal, for me anyway, and, I don't want to assume you feel the same way, but the bittersweet thing for me, well, you don't even know what I was going to say. The bittersweet thing for me is I can't come down and get a pizza. No, but yeah, exactly. The bittersweet thing for me is, as much as the sport is getting me down, it's not the fights. The fights, we have been treated to some great fights this year. And the resurgence that we've been in isn't just this year. It's actually been going on for a couple of years now. And I love it. The part that's got me down is, it seemed to be getting back on track. And what I mean by that is one of the pieces of the puzzle that made boxing so popular years gone by was the availability of the sport, on television, so to speak. And, the more sets of eyes that got to see these fights, the more popular the sport became. If you track it and you start to see when the fight started coming off the television and was, far and few in between, and we were getting forced to buy every fight on pay-per-view, and some of them weren't even that great, et cetera, that was when the decline happened. So all of a sudden we're in a resurgence. We're going up, and we're seeing a lot of fights on TV. We get the better ones on pay-per-view. We got, club fight shows on streaming services. And then all of a sudden, within the last 3 or 4 months, it's taken a nosedive with the availability of these fights. Now, all of a sudden, the greed factor is in place, and I'm just afraid that we're going to see a rapid decline again, Sal. And even when you see these good fights, interesting fights. Like I keep using the Terrence Crawford Jeff Horn fight as my battle cry, because that fight should have been available to us on other platforms other than ESPN Plus. And no disrespect to ESPN, I love ESPN. It's just that they're forcing it down our throats, and I'm negative with that, and I'm also extremely negative about the perception and the division we have among the fan base. I mean, that's what's driving me south, Sal.
I understand, and I do feel your pain, and I understand, and I can empathize across the board with you. And, especially with the access to viewing some of these big fights. I say this often, and I will tell you, it's human nature. People will move along the path of least resistance. That's just us as human beings. We will go along the path of least resistance. So when you put a few hoops, hurdles, and long jumps in the pathway, it may become a deterrent for people not to keep the focus or follow. So what I'm trying to get at in the analogy here is, if you make it more difficult for people to access the mainstream boxing matches, well, they're going to maybe turn away. And we don't know. I'm not a technology kind of guy, so I don't know the actual format that's going to be developing before our eyes. Usually I'm used to just turning on a TV and watching a fight, or if I have to pay for per view, I'll do that and I'll watch a fight. So I really don't know what hoops and hurdles are ahead, but I do know that the old format, like the old school, if it's not broken, you don't have to fix it.
Exactly.
But it is the greed and the need factor. This is a business.
TikTok
Boxing has always been a business.
TikTok. We got to take a break. You got to look at the clock.
Like
there. Stop making faces on gloves and look at your clock. We got to take a break. When we come back, we're scheduled to have Dax join us. I got some interesting questions for him. Don't go anywhere.
Billy C will be right back.
Osteoarthritis in one or both knees? If you have osteoarthritis in one or both knees, are you on Medicare, Obamacare, or other health insurance? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knees, covered by Medicare at little to absolutely no cost to you. We also offer a prescription strength topical pain relief ointment that can be used for pain experienced on other areas of your body. Our experienced staff will work with your doctor and handle all of your Medicare or insurance paperwork. Best of all, your prescription is shipped directly to your home for free. Will you qualify for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knee, or for a topical pain relief ointment covered by Medicare or private insurance at little or no cost to you?
Find out for free by calling the Back and Knee Pain Center at 1-800-604-1072. That's 1-800-604-1072, 1-800-604-1072.
Medical alarms for people who fall or have medical emergencies. You never think you'll need one until you do. Hi, I'm Lonnie Anderson for Advantage Alert. Today, our advanced systems locate and protect people inside and outside their homes, plus when they're on the road, allowing users with the press of a button to speak with an operator who can summon help. And even after 30 years, Advantage Alert's products remain amazingly affordable.
Call 800-985-1705.
Addiction is an epidemic in America. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, you need to call the R360 Network now.
I'm Ken Seeley, author, addiction recovery specialist, and former addict. R360 is a nationwide network of addiction recovery specialists that I personally selected and recommend.
The call is free, the consultation is free. If you have private insurance, your treatment could be covered with no out-of-pocket cost.
Call 800-705-0023.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Now back to Talking Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C., damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
Undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And just before we went to break, we were talking about putting fights, the big fights in front of a lot of people's eyes. And, it just seems like when we were in a downward way with the sport, only the diehard fans were the ones that were tuning in and everything else. It's when the casual fan or the marginal fan or that sports fan that hangs out at the water cooler on Mondays at the office that talks about all the big events, when those sets of eyes are watching boxing, even if it's not a huge, big mega fight, that's a good thing for the sport. It gets interest going. Joining me right now to get his thoughts, and joining Sal as well, I know Sal was showing you his artwork and all, what he does, and quite honestly, it looked a little pornographic when he was showing you how it drinks coffee, but that's besides the point.
Hey, that's so wrong, Billy.
Well, geez, I'm watching it. I can see what you guys are doing. I can see what you're doing. Here, Dax is trying to come on with some serious insight, and you got to be playing games all the time, Sal. Come on. Grow up. Act your 72 years of age.
Man, I'm a kid.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, Dax, I got this email I wanted to share with you because it kind of shows some of the great fights that we've already been treated to. And you know as well as I that, the last 2 years we've been in a serious resurgence in this sport. My negativity towards the way things are working has nothing to do with the fights. And, it just seems like we're going back to that era where only the diehard fans are going to stay with it. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, the reason why...
Just as he was going to take a sip of the coffee, I asked him the question. But no, go ahead. What do you think?
Well, the reason why is the way it's marketed. Somebody said something the other day that made a lot of sense. I think it was Paulie Malignaggi. I was rewatching some Anthony Joshua fights, and it was a rematch of the Anthony Joshua versus Vladimir, the Joshua Klitschko fight, where Malignaggi had stated that the reason why fans today want this trash talk is because they enjoy this. The WWE, even though people know that it's fake, they love that trash talk. They love the drama surrounding it. And in this sport, if you're able to, it seems, to be that drama guy, to create that WWE atmosphere that a lot of the diehard fans complain about, or guys like you, me, Coach in the chat room, Sal, we complain about, you're able to sell fighters, and as long as you're able to sell fighters, you're able to actually create diehard fans. And what's going to happen with this, though, is as these diehard fans are created, the integrity of the sport is actually going down, despite the fact that the sport itself is more or less growing, and we're not really getting the quality of matchups that we used to. It just more or less seems like we're getting the quality of matchups because they're being sold as quality matchups. In a minute, if we talk about this topic, I was thinking about, the first time I ever seen Manny Pacquiao in person, and when I think about his career from back then and that card compared to today, that tells you exactly how much the sport has changed in 20 years, and it's not the same sport whatsoever. It's definitely a sport that is sold rather than a sport where stars are created on their own by performances in the ring.
Well, I agree with that 100%, but my point is that when you do have a fight, the more sets of eyes that you can bring that fight to or show that fight to, the better it is for the sport. And when we went through that that downtime, 5 to 10 years ago, it was because we were being forced. Only the good fights were on pay-per-view, and it chased a lot of people away. And then the pay-per-views weren't even that great. Well, then we kind of got back on track, and now they're doing the same thing with these streaming services, and it's all based on greed. I'll give you an example. I got this email from Johnston, and it's a good one, and I'm glad you came on because this actually mentioned some fights that we had this year, and I just want to go through these. He says, hey, guys, I'm gutted to hear that there's not going to be a show until August 4th. That being said, I completely understand, blah, blah, blah. There's hope and room for optimism after some good fights this year and fights that are on the horizon. Here's some scraps that I recall from this year that should brighten the overall mood. And he's listed 16 here, and let's go through them. The first one is Usyk beating Maris Breedis by a unanimous decision. That was a great fight, guys. What do you think, Dax?
And that was a great fight, but you know what? That was also a fight that didn't get, except by a diehard fan like a Johnston or like me or other guys, that didn't get any attention. And why is that? Because it was marketed in a way where it was a fight, and it wasn't marketed in a way where we're so used to seeing now with a lot of trash talk. That was just two guys going out there to prove how great they are instead of two guys going out there to tell everybody how great they are. But that was absolutely a great fight, and that World Boxing Super Series, as we spoke about last week, is one of those things that are taking the sport in the right direction. Now we just need others to follow if the sport is going to regain.
Well, this is my point, because if they put that in front of more sets of eyes, we would have more people enjoying that fight other than us, and this is exactly what my point is, okay? Let me mention a couple others. Errol Spence knocking out Lamont Peterson, Murat Gassiov over Dorticos by a 12-round stoppage, which is his fight of the year so far. Georgie Groves over Chris Eubank. Wilder with Ortiz, we all saw that one. Oscar Valdez beating Scott Quigg. Jarrett Hurd beating Urslandi Lara. That was actually a fight that most people, because of Lara's boxing ability, were a little bit surprised. And Jarrett Hurd busts on the scene after that, and we haven't heard from him since. Tony Bello beating David Hay. That was... David Hayes finished. Vasily Lomachenko, Jorge Linares beating him. That was a great fight. Until it was stopped, it was a close fight. Stevenson Badou Jack, a majority draw. I felt Jack won that fight. Josh Warrington over Lee Selby. Leo Santa Cruz, Abner Maris recently. That was a great fight. Terrence Crawford beating Jeff Horn. Great fight. Not as many people saw that should have because of the streaming thing. Josh Taylor against Victor Postal. Anthony Joshua over Joseph Parker. Not a great fight, but it was in front of 80,000 people. And then he has Dillian White over Lucas Brown. These were all good fights, Dax, but not everyone saw them. Out of all of these, what did the general public get to see? Maybe 4? 4 out of 16? So this is my point. The greed factor is regressing all the progress that we have had in the last 2 years.
But on the other hand, though, with these streaming apps, they're actually, a lot of these fights aren't available worldwide, and that has been a problem with the sport, is that what's taking place overseas isn't available here and vice versa, or you'll see a lot of people over there, for them to actually watch it, they have to wait up till 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning or get up that early, to watch one of the big fights over here that are available. And because of the way the networks, and it has nothing to do with the promoters, but because of the way a lot of these networks are set up, is they don't broadcast in certain areas. Even if you want to watch online, even if you get a live stream online someplace, you know what, they won't show it in certain countries. It will literally say on there, not available in your area. So when you're getting these new type of streaming that's available worldwide, that's only a plus for the sport. And I understand where it kind of seems like greed, but actually, and it's better than having something like these pay-per-views, because these streaming services are directed towards boxing fans in general. And the boxing fan, for whatever that is, for $8, $9, $10 a month, and they're going to be able to see these fights worldwide. I believe they're going to invest in that, and that's only a plus for the sport, as long as they're showing all the fights and not just showing a select few fights, if that makes sense.
I agree that it's good for the sport. But to flip the light switch the way they essentially have done is not good. What they should have done is ease into it. In other words, introduce these streams, offer it, and the smartest way would have been offering that stream as a discount, or encourage, entice people with the full cards or whatever if they sign up, but not close the door to all the other people. I agree that streaming, and I've said this, and Sal and I talk about this all the time, I agree that it's the future, and I support it 100%, just like you said, for all those reasons. But to flip the switch and say, hey, Manny Pacquiao against Lucas Matthysse is only going to be available on a stream, or Terrence Crawford against Jeff Horn, only available on a stream. That's where I think the greed factor is kicking in. Because remember, these streaming services are eliminating the television and satellite providers. They're eliminating the middleman. So the people that are producing these are putting more money in their pocket, which I agree with. It's just that I think they flipped the switch too quickly is my point.
Yes, I see your point. On the other hand, too, a lot of these television networks are, whether or not it's the network or the cable carriers, providers, they're greedy and they're hurting it. And it's not just this sport; it's a lot of sports where they have raised their prices to broadcast something, and beyond. For example, we use what happened in New York last year, or the year before, when New York wanted that $1 million insurance policy on every fighter, even for these small club shows and these small promoters. They couldn't afford it, so there was no boxing in New York for virtually 14, 15 months. And it's more or less the same way with a lot of these networks, where their prices just seem to have quadrupled to broadcast, or they've quadrupled to these providers have quadrupled, whether or not it's HBO, Showtime, or ESPN, for them to just broadcast their channel. So the streaming is the only other way that these the promoters, no matter who the promoter is, and that is their only other avenue, and that's their only other revenue. And if they don't turn to a streaming service, what's going to happen is the places that are available and the ones that are showing it, and we've seen it already, people are just bootlegging that, and what they're doing is they're recording a version of it and they're uploading videos of it onto YouTube, they're uploading videos on it to private sites, they're actually playing it live on their Facebook page, so everybody in the end is kind of getting screwed. So it's really it's a necessity, it's a lesser of two evils, more or less, but I definitely do understand your point.
Yeah, I just think that the more sets of eyes at this stage, and it goes back to exactly what you said earlier, that it'll give the fighters an opportunity to create their own value. I feel strongly that Bob Arum did Terrence Crawford no justice by sticking him on ESPN Plus. I mean, Manny Pacquiao is already a known name, even outside boxing circles. Terrence Crawford isn't, and this is a talented fighter that should be known, and by doing that, I think that they took money out of his pocket. But anyway, hey, listen, I want to get some other things, just to finish this email. He says, then we have some other fights coming this year. Dillian White against Parker, Canelo Triple G, the WBSS finals, George Groves, Callum Smith, and Usyk against Gassiev. Then the second series should be getting underway. Anthony Joshua Povetkin, Jaime Mugaya against Liam Smith, Garcia against Robert Easter Jr., Kovalev against Elder Alvarez, Danny Garcia against Sean Porter, and Peter Beeve against Callum Johnson. All good fights that will close out the year. So, listen, 2018 was a great year and continues to be, But, Dax, what's your thoughts on, we've been talking about Manny Pacquiao against Lucas Matthysse. In your opinion, do you think that this could very well be Manny Pacquiao's last stand? I mean, does he, should he win, will he fight again? Should he lose, will he fight again? If he wins, does he retire? I mean, what's your thoughts on the significance of the fight?
There's really, me and Sal were speaking briefly before we came back from the break. This is basically the last stand for both guys. Lucas Matthysse hasn't been the same since the Danny Garcia fight. He's 35 years old. He's still a quality fighter, but he's not even a genuine welterweight. Lucas Matthysse, he's more or less a career junior welterweight. And he's moved up into this division because he just can't make that 140 pounds anymore, which happens with age. And he did win this WBA regular world title, but, it's not really a belt of significance. Manny Pacquiao, you hit it right on the button earlier, where he hasn't had a knockout since the Miguel Cotto fight, which was, well, how many years ago was that? That was, 6 years ago at least. In a lot of his recent performances, he's looked mediocre. He just doesn't have that the ability to go out there and, fight the style that's made him so successful. Remember, Manny Pacquiao's style is all about that, that supercharged, style going out there. It's all energy, all stamina, and it's constant, nonstop pressure. And then when you're getting a lot of these younger guys who have the age on their side, and they don't have a 20. I think Pacquiao's been a professional now for 22 years, and then you can't compete. And a lot of these younger good guys in this era, whether or not they're a welterweight, they're a junior middleweight, they're a middleweight, or anything above, they seem to be huge for their divisions. And Manny Pacquiao, that's a guy that started out at 106 pounds. So more or less, in my opinion, if he was smart, despite that mentality we see in a lot of fighters where they always say, "I have one more in me," if he wins this fight, he should go out on a win, and let that be a farewell. Be one of those few fighters who goes, few greats who goes out on a win. And if he loses, either way, go out on that loss and say to yourself, if I couldn't beat a Lucas Matthysse, then you know what? I definitely shouldn't be in there with an Errol Spence or a Keith Thurman or Terrence Crawford and so on and so forth.
9 years since the fight with Cotto already. Wow. Sal, we were both saying earlier that he shouldn't go after those young fighters. I get what Dax just said, and that's really what we want. We want fighters to fight the other champions. But, in this particular case, why? Should he? And I agree also with you, Dax, about Matthysse. But Matisse's not the issue here. He happens to have the belt that was basically given to him by the WBA. I think all eyes are on Manny Pacquiao. I don't know, Sal. Would you like to see him fight one of the young guns?
Part of me, I would like to see it, but I don't think it would be a favorable outcome for Manny, and that's why you would say, hey, but then again, why? Like I said, Manny Pacquiao, first ballot Hall of Famer, been to the mountain and back a couple of times. He's got really nothing to prove in the sport of boxing. He's only going to prove it to himself, and that's it. He's a competitor, and maybe he's got those demons. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he just loves to fight in the box and that whole, as I explained earlier, ritual and training and regimen. It's a process. It's hard to walk away, and you could try and feed it into another venue, but it's few and far in between can fill that void as far as getting ready for a fight and the fight. So I don't know. Like I said, this guy's got a stellar career. This guy has had his best days behind him. And if he does win this fight and he touts out Mayweather for the last hurrah, then that's it. I don't see him being the kind of guy that's going to stay around and challenge all these young bucks and being really that significant person to dismantle or to win. I don't see a long future right now for Manny Pacquiao.
Hey, Dax,
in all due respect.
Dax, does he possess the kill or be killed mentality? We just mentioned, you said Cotto. I looked it up real quick. 9 years since he's gotten a knockout. Can he muster that seek or be killed attitude for the Matthysse fight? And Matisse's got a granite chin, only been stopped once in his whole career.
No, I don't think so. If he was able to, he would have stopped Brandon Rios. If he was able to, he would stop Chris Algieri and so on and so forth.
And Jeff Horn.
Or Jeff
He
Horn,
almost did. He almost did with Horn.
The age, the amount of abuse. Remember, Manny Pacquiao started out in the sport at 106 pounds.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yes.
So, the age, the abuse on the body, and so on and so forth. You just, the punch resistance is gone. We've seen that with the last Juan Manuel Marquez fight when he was, knocked out, not just knocked out, but knocked out, literally cold. Half the people thought he might have been dead inside that ring. So, Manny Pacquiao, that changes you, especially as you get older, it changes your mentality. So, no, I don't think Manny Pacquiao has that killer instinct to him anymore. And even if, it's in his mind, I just don't think he has it physically.
Yeah, how does that leave a fighter, though? I mean, I really think that I connected it with his political run. Ever since he became a politician, it seems like he's become more of a humanitarian.
That can happen too, there's other things, we all change as we get older. We see fighters change a lot of times when they get married. You see a fighter change when they have kids. You see a fighter change after an injury. There's a million reasons that can happen, and most of all, when you've done everything there is in the sport to do, you kind of lose that hunger as well, because really Manny Pacquiao has nothing to prove. This title that he's going to, if he should beat Lucas Matthysse and he wins that, it pales in comparison to anything he's accomplished in the past. So really, what's this title do for him? It's not even the WBA super title, it's the WBA regular title. So it's what does it really mean for him? And at 40 years old, what's he going to do? Go through 2 years of negotiations with some of these young guns and end up the B-side, and by that time he's 42 years old, his body's diminished a little more, and then he's just going to go out there and he's going to be an all-time great on the resume of somebody else. So to me, it just makes no sense. Manny Pacquiao just needs to, do his last run. I remember the very first time I ever seen him live, and the card that he was on was phenomenal.
Which card was it?
It was back in 2001, and he was fighting Liho Ladabwa for the IBF super bantamweight title, and also on that card, Bill.
Was that? Wait a minute. Let me ask you something. Wait, was that the first time he was with Freddie Roach? Was that fight?
I believe so.
Okay.
And also on that card, you had Oscar De La Hoya. He was fighting Javier Castillo. Acapito Sanchez was on that card. Jermaine Taylor was on that card. Michael Bent was on that card. Taylor and Bent, I think neither one of them had 5 fights yet. Both of them went on to be world champions, and that was on regular HBO.
Yeah, see, this is my point. This is my point. In order to build a fighter and a following and a fan base, you got to put those fights in front of as many sets of eyes as possible. Hey, I'm all for the streaming. Offer it at a lower price. Get people to test the waters like that to save a few bucks, but don't make it the only option. They're shooting themselves in the foot with that. It's a shame. It's a shame. But in any event, Dax, I appreciate you coming on, my man, and we'll be looking forward to our post-fight setup. We'll be coming back. I would have loved to have done the one after Pacquiao Matthysse, but I want to wait for one that will get the most viewership from, and it seems to be the Kovalev fight, and there's some other fights that day too. And as we progress with this, it's going to be after even not huge fights. So we're gonna find a comfort zone with that over the next several weeks or whatever, and I'm looking forward to it.
And you know what? Who knows? With all these mega fights coming up through this World Boxing Super Series, maybe, Bill, you'll get on board with some of the streaming. We'll get Sal on board with some of that streaming on there. And, maybe we'll do some post-fights for that World Boxing Super Series.
I am.
I think fans would enjoy that.
No, you got me all wrong, man. And so does other people if they're thinking like that. It's not that I'm against it. I want the stream. I just don't feel that it should be the only option. Now, with the World Boxing Super Series, that's an asterisk because those fights are not taking place, anywhere near the United States. So, I'm okay with it. I just don't think it should have. I just don't think they should force the big fights, especially Manny Pacquiao, Terrence Crawford, etc., as the only option today. If we were having the same conversation a year from now, it would be fine if they took baby steps to that end. That's all. Just to flip the switch now, an option for me currently is to watch on my phone or my tablet. No, I know everybody's got internet ready TVs and you can get the service and do the same way. And quite honestly, it's the same quality as television. And I heard a lot of complaints. I didn't watch the live Terrence Crawford fight, but I heard a lot of complaints that the stream was choppy and everything else. So
this is true, and even with this, Bill, boxing is behind.
Well, like we said yesterday, Dax, what they're doing, and not to get too technical here for everyone, but you always when you introduce a technology, you have to make sure that it works for people that might not have the latest and greatest. For example, if somebody has the base internet package from their provider, they should not have to go out and upgrade to the turbo super speed in order to watch a streamed fight. The burden falls on the people that are streaming it, not these services that the people have in their home. So their answer when people complain to ESPN, oh, it was choppy, the quality wasn't good, the answer from ESPN execs were, well, you didn't have a fast enough bandwidth. You didn't have a fast enough service. Well, why? So now I have to subscribe to your service and I have to upgrade my internet package. You're right. It's ahead of schedule, and that's my point. They should have eased into it, and then once everybody was caught up to it, flip the switch. Then that's all. That's all I'm saying. But. Anyway.
There's always an angle, my boy. There's always an angle.
And that's what. Oh yeah, there's always an angle in the sport of boxing, man. There's always an angle. It's never ut and dry. Dax, I appreciate it. We'll be all looking forward to your stuff up on the website, because that is we got to congratulate Dax. He's very proficient with that, and will continue to do so. So listen, we'll talk to you soon, Dax.
All right, everybody, enjoy the day. Stay cool.
Take care, Dax.
That's Dax Khan giving us his insight. Listen, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, Alex Batali is going to join us. And I got another email I want to read at some point. I also got an update on, something we talked about yesterday. Was announced after we talked about it. I'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
Osteoarthritis in one or both knees? If you have osteoarthritis in one or both knees, are you on Medicare, Obamacare, or other health insurance? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knees, covered by Medicare at little to absolutely no cost to you. We also offer a prescription strength topical pain relief ointment that can be used for pain experienced on other areas of your body. Our experienced staff will work with your doctor and handle all of your Medicare or insurance paperwork. Best of all, your prescription is shipped directly to your home for free. Will you qualify for a prescription strength solution for osteoarthritis of the knee, or for a topical pain relief ointment covered by Medicare or private insurance at little or no cost to you?
Find out for free by calling the Back and Knee Pain Center at 1-800-604-1072. That's 1-800-604-1072, 1-800-604-1072.
Medical alarms for people who fall or have medical emergencies. You never think you'll need one until you do. Hi, I'm Lonnie Anderson for Advantage Alert. Today, our advanced systems locate and protect people inside and outside their homes, plus when they're on the road, allowing users with the press of a button to speak with an operator who can summon help. And even after 30 years, Advantage Alert's products remain amazingly affordable.
Call 800-985-1705.
Addiction is an epidemic in America. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, you need to call the R360 Network now.
I'm Ken Seeley, author, addiction recovery specialist, and former addict. R360 is a nationwide network of addiction recovery specialists that I personally selected and recommend.
The call is free, the consultation is free. If you have private insurance, your treatment could be covered with no out-of-pocket cost.
Call 800-705-0023.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. He may not have an Excellence in Broadcasting award, but the night's still young.
And he's got martinis.
So you never know what may be by morning. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. And yesterday we were talking about the heavyweight division, and I actually had all of the rankings from the sanctioning bodies as well as the computer rankings, et cetera, and I was showing what a joke it is. And one of my points were that I thought that fighters that are ranked should actually fight each other. I mean, I know that's a crazy thought and everything. I mean, the way it works today is that fighter wins a couple of fights. Next thing you know, they're getting a shot at a world champion. And even though their fights that they've won are not against other contenders. And one fight that I threw out there was a guy who seemingly has been looking better of late, has trimmed down, looks better, was Andy Ruiz. Who did get a world title shot, just like I said, and came up short. Some people felt he won the fight against Joseph Parker, but took a little hiatus, came back, won over the weekend. And I said yesterday that I thought that a good fight would be between Andy Ruiz Jr. and Jarrell Miller. I think Jarrell Miller is one of the most overrated piece of garbage fighters out there. I'm shocked that he's ranked as high as he is. Especially considering he's never fought any contender ever. Well, it came out early this morning that Andy Ruiz says, "I'd love to face Jarrell Miller." He said, and I quote, "I still need some work, but having 10-round fights is a good experience. We're improving and getting better. I'd love to face Jarrell Miller or any of the big names out there. They'll probably underestimate me after my last performance. But the next time I get in the ring will be different." That's a quote from Andy Ruiz. Yes, he wants to fight Jarrell Miller. Joining Sal and myself right now, I want to get his thoughts, is the one, the only, Alex Perpa. Well, you guys are switching me up. How does Alex get on that side of the screen?
I don't know.
Jeez, I don't know. What's up, Alex?
Good morning, Bill C. Good morning, Sal. How you guys doing?
Good morning, Alex. Always a pleasure, pal.
So what do you think, man? I don't even know what you think about Jarrell Miller, but I think he's overrated. But why don't these guys fight other similar ranked fighters?
Yeah, well, that's an age-old question, of course. I think, they want to protect their rankings, and I think that that's the thing is, you always want to fight somebody who's just enough of a challenge to look, make you look decent, but not enough challenge to be dangerous. And unfortunately, that's probably the most striking in the heavyweight division. I actually enjoyed Big Baby Miller's last fight. Excuse me. I can't help but think, like everybody else, that he should be lighter. Although, as a matter of fact, I think it was just yesterday he posted a couple of pictures of himself on social media, and he does look pretty slim. I mean, he, slim in quotes. He's got a high body fat percentage, but he seems to wear it well. He's very muscular, and it does seem like, but he's not like it's not like it's slovenly fat hanging off over his belt and stuff. He looks slimmer than that. So I don't know, but it is strange to see somebody quite that heavy. That being said, he throws a lot of punches, and hey, I'll watch a heavyweight. He throws a lot of punches any day of the week.
I agree. He does throw a lot of punches, And, a fight against Andy Ruiz. I mean, they are, when you look at the rankings, Jarrell Miller, for the sanctioning bodies, are up there pretty high. In the IBF, he's ranked number 3. In the WBO, he's ranked number 3. In the WBC, he's not ranked at all, which I agree with. And in the WBA, which is the complete joke, I don't know if you saw yesterday's show, but he's ranked number 3. But the WBA also, their regular heavyweight champion is ranked 31 by the computer. They also have several guys that aren't even ranked for reasons like, Frez Oquendo, who's their number 2, hasn't fought in 3 years. How do you stay at number 2 ranked contender? I just don't get it. But but the fascinating thing is when you look at, and I'm an IBO computer rankings guy. I think that their ranking system is the best. But when I look at BoxRec, which most people look at, they have Jarrell Baby Miller at number 6, and they use a point system. In just this fight that we're talking about, Andy Ruiz is number 17, and he has a total of 81 points. And Jarrell Miller has 100 more at 183. So I don't understand, considering that at least Andy Ruiz has a fight against Joseph Parker, who's a former world champion, and Jarrell Miller hasn't faced anyone. I mean, in the last fight that you mentioned against Johan Duhaupas is really just a granite-chinned human punching bag. I mean, he's slow, he's methodical, he takes lots and lots of punches, and Jarrell had a fight in spurts, running out of gas. So I don't know. I just don't get it with this guy.
Yeah, I don't know how do you get your those points boosted? How you get that many points ahead? Maybe it goes by Twitter followers.
You know what, Alex? We've been talking about the Manny Pacquiao fight. Do you think this is his last stand? Do you think that Manny Pacquiao is in a position where he wants to either go out looking good, or does he want to use a good performance against Lucas Matthysse as a catapult to other big fights? And if so, Sal thinks, and I agree, that really the only big, huge money fight for him would be the possibility of a rematch with Floyd, even though a lot of people don't want to see that. I just can't see him chasing after some of the young guns, with names like Errol Spence Jr., Keith Thurman, the winner of Garcia Porter, Terrence Crawford. I mean, these guys are just too good for the version of Manny that we have today.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to see him against Thurman or Crawford. We know how this ends. We've seen this story before in terms of a fighter, a great fighter who stays around too long. I think, you could feel whatever you want about the Jeff Horn fight. I felt Jeff Horn deserved the victory. It was close, but I thought he won.
No, wait a minute. I never said.
I did as well.
Yeah,
I did.
I never said he didn't win. What I said, actually, I thought it was a close fight. What happened? I wasn't
agreeing with you.
No, but what happened in that fight was Manny lost that fight by taking his foot off the gas after he had Jeff Horn in all kinds of trouble. I don't think anybody could have argued if the referee stopped that fight in that round, whatever it was, 6th or 7th round, when Manny had Jeff Horn brutally, out on his feet. But then after that round, Manny acted like that's all he needed to do to win the fight. And I think that ultimately is why that fight ended up so close. Listen, Manny Pacquiao had a chance to walk away as a world champion after he beat Jesse Vargas for the title. He had the opportunity to walk away then. Instead, he fought again against Jeff Horn, took Horn lightly, and lost. And this is where we are today.
Yeah, I mean, he's, it's a whole year later since the Horn fight. So I do think he's still speedy enough to beat Lucas Matthysse, who's always been slow. He's a hell of a puncher, but I think, I don't think he's going to catch Manny. if he does, he could make Manny hurt. That's for sure. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Manny should have enough left to box circles around him and just look good and make his fans happy. And then I think he'll go off into politics in the Philippines and very likely become the president.
So you think he wins this fight? It could be the last time we see Manny.
I hope so. I don't want to see a Mayweather rematch. That's for sure. I don't think there's anything to be gained from that. And I think Crawford damages Manny badly, and I don't think we need to see that. I think I think that hopefully this is his last fight. I mean, I think the fact that Freddie Roach is not with him, I think that's significant because they were so inseparable for so much of their career, and so much of Manny's success was success they had together. When a trainer of that long doesn't want to work with you anymore, that does suggest that maybe he sees something he doesn't like.
Wasn't it the other way around, though?
I was going to say, which way was it? Was Manny not wanting him, or was he not wanting to continue with Manny?
Yeah.
It could very well be that it's, financial stuff, and it has nothing to do with physical ability.
Well, wait, Alex, Alex, let me just interrupt you for 1 second. I want to ask you something, Sal. Yeah. Did you think that, did you think that Freddie Roach was really helping Manny, especially in his last several fights? I mean, I search far and few in between to hear any constructive instruction from Freddie Roach to Manny Pacquiao in their last half a dozen fights together.
Well, that's my criticism on that level, and I can't. But see, Bill, here's the thing: nothing can replace or take the place of having confidence in your corner and not wanting to disrupt the apple cart if you are confident that and feel good that you've got the winning team in your corner. And no matter what Manny and his trainer, whoever it may be, have as far as a bond, as far as feeling, in this case, Freddie Roach, that going into battle together. Don't forget, that's what it sometimes is like. Hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, until one of them says, well, he did this. I think that's up to the fighter. And I think maybe Manny, if it was, see, Alex made a good point. Who was it? Was Manny the one that said, hey, I'm going forward, I'm going to make a change? Or was it that Freddie Roach said, hey, I don't think you should do this. If you're going forward, I'm no part of it. There's a big difference there.
Well, now, I remember seeing a headline that Manny announced that Freddie wasn't going to be in his corner, and then Freddie was interviewed saying, "He never told me that." I had to read it. I had to read it in the press.
There. I think Manny's looking for more. Maybe Manny does realize. There's so much. I say that maybe Freddie Roach, he's a great guy, great human being. He was a good fighter and a great trainer, Hall of Famer. But maybe there's no more that Manny can gain or have the confidence in going into future battles. So Manny maybe wanted to make a change to see if it made a difference, and he's going to have one fight to find if it makes a difference.
Alex, could this be just a case where once again a fighter's not holding himself accountable, and he turns around and says, "Oh, the reason why I'm not looking good has nothing to do with the fact that I'm 39 years old, has nothing to do with all the wars I've been in, has nothing to do that I'm a politician. It's Freddie's fault," and gets rid of Freddie. I mean, could it be a piece of that?
Sure, that could be part of it, but I think also, I think that's definitely part of it. And I think that's the part that's sad is if Manny is starting to succumb to the same sort of things that get all old fighters, where it comes to be like paranoia and greed and. You want to amass those last riches and, really see who is around you. And I do think that, in this case, we have already seen that a lot of Pacquiao's the things that made him so special have eroded. Because even if you go back to, the last Bradley fight, he was throwing his combinations and flurries kind of like an amateur. He wasn't throwing them the way he had, where he really committed to punches and to punch through the target to really damage guys. He was, sort of, I don't want to say half-assing it because, sitting in a recliner, I'm nothing. These guys are risking everything in the ring. But it's not the same Manny Pacquiao that we used to see, where he threw punches with bad intentions. It does, and I think that's why he should win this fight pretty easy, because I think skill-wise, he's pretty far ahead of Matthysse. So the way we've seen him been boxing lately, it's not like he's going to get in the trenches with Matthysse like he would have against Juan Manuel Marquez. I think he's going to just really outbox him, and I see this as either being a 12-round decision, sort of lopsided 12-round decision, or maybe a stoppage late just because, sort of TKO. Because I just think his hands are just so much speedier than Matthysse. Of course, Matthysse is dangerous because he hits so hard. But I think also, as much as I would like to be able to see it on regular TV, because it is Manny Pacquiao, I don't necessarily think that ESPN is making a bad choice. And hold on a second.
Oh, yeah. It's coming.
In the sense that they are highlighting earlier in the evening the fight that fans should care about, in Regis Prograis versus Juan Jose Velasco. That's the unstoppable force against the immovable object. That's the action fight between the two young guys that people should be excited about. And the fact that Pacquiao is yesterday's champion, and this is sort of a swan song fight. So I could see the decision to sort of put it on the back burner. If you really want to see it, go ahead. Join our little streaming service that we're going to screw you for $3.99 or whatever the hell it is for. But I'm going to be watching Prograis Velasco, if you ask me.
All right. Well, first of all, I think your description of Manny and the punching, it seems, and I agree with you, it seems like he's going through the motions instead of going through with the punches. You know what I mean? Like it's just muscle memory, and from all his experience and in the ring, he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's just not having the effect anymore, physically, mentally, the whole picture. As far as the stream, this is exactly my point, and I'm not going to disagree with you about the fight itself and the potential entertainment factor of the Prograis fight. But how many casual, and I know I'm asking the guy that says boxing doesn't need these casual fans. We don't want those guys. I mean, that was you. You're exact. That was Alex's exact words, Sal, on a show one time. He says, I don't even care if the casual fan doesn't watch it. He said, we don't need no stinking casual fans. But the truth of the matter, but the truth of the matter is that you do, and that's what gets the sport popular again. When the non-diehard fan is tuning in, they're not going to tune in to a Regis Prograis fight, even though they should. They're not, because it's not being promoted on commercials, etc., etc. So if it was the undercard of Manny Pacquiao and it was all packaged together, that's how you introduce a fighter to a sets of eyes that are tuning in for a known name, even though he's old and well past his prime. But my question falls on the streaming. It's the same question that I've been talking about the last several episodes. But Dax misunderstood me earlier. I'm not against fights being offered as a stream. As a matter of fact, I'm very supportive of it. Sal knows this. We talked about being the first ones to do this years ago. All right, but the truth of the matter is that the way that it's being approached today, with a light switch effect, where from now on the big fights, you got to subscribe, pay the $4, whatever the price is, like you said. I think that that's a mistake. I think that they should have eased into it. They should have offered it as an alternative platform, especially when they have a pay-per-view option. They could have offered it cheaper to entice people to buy it there, and then flip the switch after people are used to it. What you have today is you have a large audience that are diehards that are not sold on the streaming yet. And they have to make a decision, just like yourself, just like you said in the chat room, should I subscribe to watch this fight? And we're all going to subscribe eventually. But I just think that they're shooting themselves in the foot by limiting the sets of eyes. And I still go back to the Terrence Crawford-Jeff Horn fight, because that was a fight, and that's a commodity in Terrence Crawford that should have been available to as many sets of eyes as humanly possible, rather than say, okay, you're not going to pay the $4, you don't get to see this guy named Terrence Crawford. We know who Terrence Crawford is. We know that he's a potential number one pound-for-pound fighter, but the casual fan, the one that you don't care about, Alex, they don't even know who Terrence Crawford is. What's your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, that maybe it should have been a switcheroo there, that Crawford versus Horn should have been on regular ESPN, and Pacquiao Matthysse makes sense for the streaming thing because he's got the name recognition. He's the one who people have known for the past 10 years, and been paying pay-per-views for a long time, and they would think, oh yeah, I'd pay $3.99 for Manny Pacquiao. Whereas Crawford is the guy that you want people to know outside of Nebraska.
Yeah, well, Omaha.
Yeah, it's Nebraska, right?
Yeah, it's a big. I'm shocked that you don't know that. That's like one of the biggest boxing states in the history of the sport, Nebraska. Come on, they spar with corn husks all the time, But
he's the guy that, of course, you want to, like you said, get as many eyes on it as possible. So yeah, that probably was a big mistake to do that. But again, they probably looked at it as like, let's, and that is the greed factor. They figured, let's get people to buy this, and that's the way to do it, is put Crawford on there. People will cough up $3.99. But it'll be interesting to see what the numbers of the two will be in comparison. Will the Crawford-Horn have been a bigger buy than Matthysse-Pacquiao?
Well, the numbers for the Crawford-Horn, all we ever heard was they didn't do as good as they had expected. I never actually heard an exact number. Did you?
No.
I know, because usually when you don't hear... No, here's the funny thing, fellas. When the numbers aren't great, you never hear them. You never hear them. They shovel it under the carpet. You never hear the numbers when they're not that great. The only times you hear the numbers...
Fishing trip that you... if you didn't hear any measurements on the fishing trip, it was allowed.
Exactly. The only times you get the numbers on pay-per-views and stuff is when they're great. When they're not so good, it's sort of like Floyd Mayweather. He only shows you the winning betting tickets that he has. He never posts the losers, and I doubt very much that he never loses. But anyway, hey Alex, we got to go. One last question. What's your thoughts on our format that we're going to be kicking off in August? I know it's a bittersweet thing for you, but we do well with these post fights, and I think that we will be able to target new audiences that live anyway that we hadn't been able to in the past because of the time. What's your quick thoughts?
I'm looking forward to it. I think that that's one of the things about the sport today is that I think it's difficult. For me, it's not as difficult as it is for somebody like a fan like my brother, who now is a father, and his kids run him ragged. It's difficult to stay up late, watch a fight, and then go on social media and talk about it. But I think that is where a lot goes on today. So it's going to mean coffee, Billy C. But I do think that that's going to be pretty cool to, stay up about an hour or two after the big fights and chat with people. That is where, as they say, the iron is hot. the most difficult thing for me is going to be staying sober enough. But I do to say something coherent, But I'm looking forward to it because I do enjoy that, and I think that that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it myself, and I think it's going to.
That East Coast start time is brutal with all the.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. I mean, I got so used to watching the big fights on my DVR. I enjoy watching them early in the morning with a cup of coffee. Now what people are going to get is me watching them. And then be getting me live with a couple of scotches in me, So that might add some entertainment value. But in any event, we're looking forward to the next phase, and we're glad that you're part of that, Alex. And until next time, hang in there, and we'll talk to you on the 4th.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Take care, Alex.
That's Alex Batali, and you can catch him doing our Blast from the Past, which we will continue to do. At some point. Listen, we're not going to be doing a break here, and this time it's not Sal's fault. But in any event, what I do want to read is another email, and this one here was from my man Mitch, Sal, and he says. You talked about it on Monday's show, and a couple hours later, Ruiz mentions it, and he sends a link to the article that the quotes, I should say, that I just read from Andy Ruiz. He says, I got a question. Why hasn't Al Haymon ever sent his boxers to Mayweather Promotions? Even if he did it the same way he uses DeBella and Tom Brown, which is TGB. That's a good question. Some of these other fighters, DeBella is just like with Deontay Wilder. DeBella is technically the promoter, but not really. Maybe because Mayweather doesn't allow the domination that some of these other promoters allow. I mean, you're not going to coax Floyd Mayweather with a couple of $1 million. I mean, this is a very wealthy man, at least today. He doesn't want to do anything for less than $50 million. So I just don't. I think it's a numbers game. Sal, what do you think?
I think you're right. I think it comes down to business and numbers, and I think that's what they are tattling. I mean, there's no emotional decision here. I think it's all about numbers.
He goes on to say, I'm hearing. Let's see, where was I? Oh, he says, I'm hearing we may be 1 week or one fight away from Gervonta Davis being a free agent, sort of.
Wow.
He will say bye-bye to Mayweather Promotions, but he will still be with Al Haymon. As bad as Floyd is, I kind of wish it was the other way around, but I'm not complaining if it's true. That's an interesting statement. Al Haymon isn't the Al Haymon when everybody thought he was going to save boxing. Okay, I mean it's just not the same Al Haymon. Al Haymon right now is a guy that's just trying to keep his fighters busy. And I maintain my opinion about Floyd and his promotional company. I do believe that Floyd Mayweather Promotions could very well be the best promotional outfit in the United States should he decide to let his ego come in second fiddle, but we'll see what happens. My man Mitch says you were right. You were right on the show last week. Looks like Thurman is missing. And Sal, he sent me. Well, I'm going to show it to everybody. I don't know if everybody can see it, but he sent me a picture, and here it is. And hopefully you guys can see it. It's Keith Thurman on a milk carton box. And it says, missing, have you seen me? With a picture of Keith Thurman. That is great stuff. I appreciate that.
That's great.
Mitch, he says, lastly, you mentioned Wilder fighting Dillian White. Remember, Eddie Hearn offered Wilder to fight Dillian White for $4 million plus the television rights, which was a great offer at the time. Remember, Sal, we were talking about that, saying, what a fool for your boy Wilder not to take it, because he could have made a ton of money with whatever cable network, presuming it was Showtime, that would take it, plus the $4 million. He says, I would have taken the $4 million to fight White over the $2.1 million he got to fight Ortiz. Interesting point. And I do believe that it would have been a similar fight, maybe not even as hard. Ortiz was a southpaw that seemingly gave Deontay some trouble. He says, but Wilder balked and demanded from Hearn that he pay $7 million and he would take the fight. He says, doesn't this all sound familiar? Don't you see a pattern? This leads to one to think maybe Wilder didn't want the fight with AJ after all, and even though everyone seems to think it was the other way around, he says, just study the pattern, folks. And you know what? My man Mitch makes a really good point. White called it sweet justice, karma, the other day. You know, that's an interesting point. Thanks for the email, Mitch. You're the man. You know, Sal, you know, I forgot that he demanded so much money more than what he was offered. And, you know, shouldn't he have learned? Shouldn't your idol have learned that he, you know, outbid himself for Dillian White, which could have been an easier fight for him? He would have made $4 million plus at TV. Let's assume he makes at least another $1 million from TV, so he makes $5 million to fight Dillian White, which I feel he could have beaten. And instead he settles for $2.1 million to fight Ortiz. He turns down $15 million to fight AJ, and it's to be determined what he's going to make in his next fight. But I can't see it being more than $2.5 million. What's your thoughts?
No, I think you're right. He boxed himself, no pun intended, he boxed himself right in a position that, you know, you and I would have the comments that he's not, probably doesn't have the right advisors giving him the correct information as far as how you make a founded real business decision. And, you know, it's a shame because, like I said, you don't know how many more fights you have left in front of you to reap in the harvest of what you're trying to do. And, you know, that's why I couldn't understand why that deal with Anthony Joshua wasn't solidified when the iron was hot. So I think this is also, you know, something that he's got to really question. You know, what is he being advised, or is he making these decisions upon himself?
You know, I don't know. That's a good question. You think that he's being misled, or do you think that he's taking the bull by the horns? I mean, that's a good point. What do you really think?
That's a good point. I mean, you know, he's either being misinformed, not guided, or brought along correctly, or maybe to maximize his future income or current income available, or he's making these decisions by himself, and maybe he doesn't have the right foundation or fundamentals or input to make the correct decision. So, you know, and what's good for you and I may not be what he feels is the right move for him. So I don't know, but I'd like to find an inquiring mind that might know. You know, is he definitely making these decisions, or is it his team that has made these decisions?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? And you know, the facts are, you know, I mean, the numbers. He's right, you know, and I totally, you know, I got to be honest when I say that I totally forgot about the money that he turned down. And the funnier thing is that we discussed it. We were like, what's he, nuts? And we actually carried that again when we were talking about when they first started mentioning a potential showdown with Anthony Joshua. Like, oh, and then they'll get the US TV rights too, you know, and we were saying that really wasn't even that fight. You know, for a guy, you know, it's puzzling, Sal. For a guy, and you know, all kidding aside, you know, you got a guy like Deontay Wilder who clearly is, you know, the number 2 heavyweight or number 1, depending upon how you look at it, between Anthony Joshua. I mean, those two. Let's rephrase it. Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder are the top 2 heavyweights in the division today, and you know, you look at it and you see that this guy has turned down, you know, extremely large amounts of money to take alternative fights. And, you know, you wonder if it's bad decision making and how many times do you make that bad decision, or if it's the simple fact that he doesn't really want to fight these guys, or his team is suggesting that he doesn't want. I mean, in my opinion, his win over Luis Ortiz, if anything, should have, because I know his value went up in my mind. And I think that, if anything, some of those question marks were answered. And now's the time to take the bull by the horns and make the fight. But yet, once again, he turns away from a huge payday, and only time will tell what he ends up fighting Brazil for, or whoever he fights next.
That's correct. So it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. And who is the opponent that they're going to put in front of him, and who is he going to agree to fight, and at what terms? And we can't wait. But I just wish it was Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, well, you know what?
That's gone.
Yeah, well, you know what? The other thing is they probably would have stuck it on that DAZN network anyway. Another streaming thing. But in any event, on this day in boxing history, July 10, in 1939, Len Harvey Oswald. No, it's a different guy.
No way.
Len Harvey wins. I know. Why do I always say things that I'm like, man, I shouldn't have said that?
Your brain goes in one direction, and it feeds. It's quick, and sometimes it just doesn't have the buffer, and it just comes out.
Michael,
same thing, man.
Michael Buffer.
True. See,
there you go again.
It just happens.
I agree with me, but anyway, on this day in 1939, Len Harvey wins a 15-round decision over Jock McCoy to win the vacant British World Light Heavyweight title. It took place in London. Just so people understand, we're always talking about all these titles today. There were a lot of titles previously too, and during this era. Not only did other countries have world titles, but so did other states here in the U.S. There were Pennsylvania world title, and many people recognized New York State world title because at the time New York State was the state to fight in here in the U.S. But anyway, it was the vacant British world title on this day in 2001. A fight that I was ringside for, and it's actually a little piece of history. Eric Luca knocked out Glenn Catley in the seventh round to win the vacant WBC World Super Middleweight title, and that took place in Montreal. The significance of this fight was that it was actually the first time that a Canadian fighter won a vacant world title on Canadian soil. And I was ringside, and this was a huge event. It was one of the most exciting fights that I witnessed ringside. And I just reading this, I remember that fight. It was a great one. Anyway, on this day in 1951, Randy Turpin wins a 15-round decision over the late great best ever Sugar Ray Robinson to win the world middleweight title, and that took place in London. I believe this was only the second time Sugar Ray Robinson ever lost a fight, Sal, and he would regain this title in the U.S. But anyway, on this day in 1922, Joe Lynch knocks out Johnny Buff in the fourth round to win the world bantamweight title. It took place at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. On this day in 1988, Orlando Canizales knocks out Kelvin Seabrooks in the 15th round to win the IBF World Bantamweight title. It took place in Atlantic City, New Jersey, on this day in 1988. On this day in 1983, Lupe Madeira wins the WBA World Junior Flyweight title via a fourth-round technical decision over Katsu Tokashika, which this fight took place in Tokyo.
Where?
Tokyo. And finally, on this day, July 10th, on July 10th, the late, great Joe Gans stops young Griffo in the seventh round of a scheduled 25-round fight. The fight took place at Coney Island in New York. Joe Gans improved to 83 wins, 6 losses, and 11 draws. Young Griffo, he didn't have such a bad record either. He dropped to 62 wins, 8 losses, and 37 draws. These guys fought during an era when some states outlawed boxing, so a lot of times they wouldn't render a decision, and that was why there was
37 draws.
I know, 37 draws. But think of how many fights. We're talking about 1,900.
100 fights.
This guy had 100 fights. In 1,900, Joe Gans had over 100 fights, and Young Griffo had over 100 fights each, and they're fighting. And, oh, by the way, it wasn't even a world title fight. This was just I'm complaining that Andy Ruiz Jr. Can't get a fight with baby Jarrell Miller, and neither one of them are world title holders. These two guys in 1900 fought. They both had over 100 fights. They both fought a non-title fight. And by the way, it was scheduled for 25 rounds. So, boy.
Hey, that's what they do. Hey, what are you doing next weekend? I don't know. You want to fight? Yeah, let's
all right, let's fight. But in any event, that's why boxing is not the way it used to be. But anyway, hey, listen, boys and girls, we are taking a couple of weeks off. We're going to rejuvenate a little bit, and we will be keeping an eye on everything that's going on in the sport. But make sure that you tune in as soon as, and we'll be back to doing our post-fight shows, which was a big hit with everyone. I know a lot of you loved it. We kind of veered off of them for a little bit. But the way it works, just so you know, is as soon as the decision is rendered for the Kovalev-Alvarez fight on August 4th, make sure you tune it in right here, because we will be broadcasting live. We will be also putting that show on demand and up on on YouTube and in our database up on our website, and some radio stations will get a copy of it as well. So make sure you tune in right after that fight is over, and we'll be looking forward to you then. So between now and then, I'll leave you with this. Make sure you stay up to date on the fights. Keep tuning in to www.billycboxing.com for the latest and best news. And we'll see you in August, right? So, hey, we might as well, before we go, I'll leave you with this, because Sal's ready, willing, and able. I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.